Tonight's True Scary Story is one of the most disturbing stories I have ever received. It is utterly terrifying in just about every way, and I think that this person was under possession. For the story, we are going to call the person Mello. Mello's dad was in the army and worked on the Berlin Wall, so they stayed in Germany for the first 4 years of her life. Her dad is Canadian and comes from a small town up north. Her mother, Portuguese. She moves to Canada when she's younger and she meets Mello's dad, and then they move to Germany. When Mello was younger, she was a happy kid. She never had nightmares, she never had sleep paralysis, she never had any issues sleeping whatsoever when she was about 4 to 5 years old, until they left for Canada. Moving to Canada was hard for her, obviously, because she was young and she had to adjust to a different culture, but they moved into a house that her granddad had constructed. Her granddad had passed away before she was able to meet him, and some say that she was her granddad's reincarnate. Now, her grandmother still stayed in that house, so she lived with them. So she lived in the upstairs area and everybody else lived in the downstairs area. And that was Mello, her mom, and her dad. When I say downstairs, I mean the basement. Now, the house really creeped Mello out for some reason. She didn't know why, but it just creeped her out. And she started to become afraid of the dark, and she didn't know why this was happening either. So she started to have to leave her door open at night. Then she starts having these nightmares. And at first, it's not every night, but it quickly starts becoming a habit. She would fall asleep and wake up screaming and crying, and she would have these horrible night terrors, but she wouldn't remember them. She had lucid dreams, reoccurring nightmares, and some that lasted for months. She had horrible nightmares of beings that didn't exist and deformed humans, violent dreams of her family dying. She would get lost in these horrific labyrinths. Always a witch at the end. It was a reoccurring dream, so she knew that there would always be a witch at the end of the labyrinth. That would be if she survived until the end. She also had dreams of dark forces trying to take over her. And I mean trying to enter her body, and she had never seen a scary movie in her life. Her parents became worried and they were wondering why she was living through all of this. And at one point, she was terrified to sleep. She would not sleep until she couldn't take it anymore and she just passed out. And she had to stay in this very dark room, and it was so dark it had no windows in it. It was even dark with the door cracked open. Her room was like a V shape, so there was a part of her room that she couldn't see at all, and she would always hear things from that corner of the room. She said it sounded like gurgling sounds, like they were in the stomach of the house. There was this door in her room, and it led to the cold room, and that was where all of her granddad's stuff was. They also kept a lot of storage in that room. This room always scared her. It scares her to this day. It was always cold. It is still cold to this day. Sometimes she thinks that the monsters from her dreams lurked in there, waited for her to fall asleep, and then would creep into her head. And the nightmares were so violent and so scary that she did not want to sleep anymore. But the more she resisted sleep, the worse the nightmares got. And the problem with this is not even close to the worst part of the story. She even saw a sleep doctor for this, but they didn't do much for her at all. And then she started to feel this numbing feeling, and it would start in a small place in her body, and then it would creep up to her entire body, where she felt numb all over. While her body became numb, worst of all, she would be losing her eyesight slowly. At first, it was just a little point, like fuzzy, like seeing static. But as it crept in, that point would become bigger and bigger until she completely lost her eyesight. When it started, she knew it wouldn't stop. It was like an impending doom, knowing that she was going to lose her eyesight. And at this point, she would start vomiting. But worst of all, while she was vomiting, she would be outside of her body, watching herself vomit. She literally couldn't feel herself vomit. She was just watching it from the outside of her body. What was happening to her? She just did not know. Her dad said that he didn't understand what was happening, and he was actually scared of her at that point. He said her eyes would become pitch black and they would lose her for a couple of hours. He said it felt like she was possessed, and he didn't understand why she was having night terrors and nightmares, because they were a happy family before this, and she was a happy child before this, so this made things complicated. So this kept happening to her. She would start to feel that numbing feeling creep up on her, and then she would slowly lose her eyesight until it was completely gone, and then she would vomit, and this would happen repeatedly. She was having these horrible nightmares that she was terrified of, and the worst part of it is she was terrified of the dark, and when you lose your eyesight, you are permanently in the dark. But what scared her more than losing her eyesight was the feeling that she was losing herself. She was so exhausted, and she would hallucinate, and she didn't know what was real and what wasn't real because she was so tired. She would see things in the corner of her eye. She would hear things, shadows, whispering. At that point, she didn't know if it was ghosts or if she was just sleep deprived. She felt sick every single night, and she just had to deal with it, and this was hard. Her parents ended up getting a divorce, and she moved out of that house as fast as she could, and the possessions stopped. As soon as she was out of that house, they stopped. While she was at her mom's apartment, she would still have nightmares every night, but the worst ones would happen in that other house, and she would have these reoccurring horrific dreams. And these were always lucid dreams, dreams about her family dying, getting beat up, getting murdered, just horrific dreams. Her worst nightmares basically in a lucid dream form. Seeing people that were half dead, dreams of being possessed every single night. So being at her dad's house was really hard, but she had to be there for a lot of the time. So in order to cope with this, she started to use drugs. These drugs made it so that she couldn't sleep. She got so thin, she thought she was gonna die. She weighed 80 pounds at one point. This happened for years, and she never wanted to sleep because she knew that she was going to have these nightmares, but she knew if she stayed awake, she was going to hallucinate and be high. So it was a lose-lose situation for her at this point. Not much would make her happy. Suicidal thoughts became the norm, but things would take a terrifying turn when her father remarried and had a sweet little boy, Mello's little brother. Mello was 14 years old at this point, and for the most part, her little brother grew up in the same house that she grew up in, that horrible house. One night, her little brother has a nightmare. And then the next night, he has another nightmare. Then he starts having night terrors. He's seeing ghosts. He's waking up in the middle of the night screaming. It's all starting over, except for with her little sweet brother. This would happen every single night. He would wake up screaming and crying until it got to the point where her little brother didn't want to sleep either and started doing the same thing that she was doing, forcing herself to stay awake. His eyes became black. He was losing his eyesight and vomiting. One night, Mello was at her dad's house watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and her dad thought that her little brother was asleep, when suddenly they hear him screaming from the other room. "Dad! Dad!" He screamed, running out of his room. Her dad took him in his arms and settled him down on the sofa with him. You could not see the retinas of his eyes. His eyes were pitch black. He looked possessed. He was so scary, but Mello knew how he felt. He was losing touch with reality, and she knew exactly how that feeling felt. And he needed them more than anything, and she also knew how that felt. So she tried to pretend like she wasn't terrified, and she would help him while he was vomiting, like her father did with her. One night, while he's vomiting, and Mello is standing next to him trying to help him, he just stops vomiting, and he turns his head unnaturally and looks right at Mello and says, "I know you." She said she was so scared that she almost peed her pants. She said that she ran to go get her father, and he was also scared too. Her father was terrified but would never show it. So her father comes in the room and he takes over helping. She said that her father was nothing but amazing to both of them, even when he was scared, because he had no idea what was going on with his children. He didn't know if this was his children anymore, it sounds like. Time passed, her brother was getting older, and so was she, and she left town because of drugs. She felt like she was gonna die, so she moved to another town 3 hours away. Her brother was terrified to sleep. He had violent and insane dreams every night, just like Mello. He couldn't take it anymore, so he unfortunately also started doing drugs to survive, she guesses. She said sometimes today when they talk about that house, they cry, and sometimes they'll even go in the basement and try to find the ghost or whatever this thing was that was haunting them both. It broke her heart that he had to go through that and that she wasn't there to protect him. First thing she did was ask herself, why is this happening? The only person that died here was my grandfather, and he would not do this to us. In her mind, only a demon could do these types of things to a child. So she starts doing some research, and boy was she wrong. Her grandfather was not the only person that died there. She read about the history of the house, and she asked her family what was there and who was there before them. They got the land after 1950, a couple of years after the colonizers came to her hometown. This was before the house was built though, but exactly on that land was a farm and a huge garden. It was to feed their whole family who all stayed around the land. At first they had lots of land, some of it not even occupied. Before they got there though, First Nations stayed on their land because it was a good place to grow food. It was big enough to feed animals, and there was a freshwater river right beside their place. So it was good for animals to drink. It was also filled with fish, so it was a perfect place to live. Sadly, most were killed so that colonizers could take the land. The First Nation women were raped and killed. Her ancestors said that it was like a graveyard, but they kept that part quiet. In fact, many parts of her hometown were like graveyards. So many people were brutally murdered. So many scary stories that she had heard as a kid were from First Nation cemeteries, and this was probably why. But she realized that her ancestors were the murderers, that they had done this to the women, that they had done this to everyone that was murdered. She wonders and thinks that her family, her ancestors, were the ones that participated in these brutal rapes and murders. A couple of years ago, they found this old horseshoe that her father keeps very carefully. They had a couple of old horseshoes around the doors around her old house. She doesn't know if this means anything, but she thinks that they come from the old farm that her ancestors had before. She thinks that it may either keep them safe, or it's just a sad reminder of what her people did to the First Nation people. At that point, she kind of realized what may have been going on, that her house was haunted, and that it was because her family killed innocent people. Her souls are still there. She just knows it. She feels it with everything that has happened. And she thinks that all of the negative energy brought something more sinister, something demonic, something evil. Her dad still stays in that house every once in a while, and he's a fan of these touch lights. You have to touch them to make them brighter, and those lights will turn on by themselves all the time and even change colors instantaneously. She thinks sometimes it's just her granddad saying hi, but other times she knows it's not him. Last year, her dad said that he was outside and the action lights that only turn on if you touch them lit up by themselves. Her dad was sitting outside once and the action lights were in front of him, like in a row, and all of a sudden, one by one by one by one, they all turned on as if someone was walking past them and just hitting the light until the very last light that got to him. And Mello was at her dad's house one night, and she's outside smoking a cigarette, and the same exact thing happens to her. She said, that place is haunted, but so am I. Today, she still has nightmares, and she still equates sleeping with nightmares. So she knows she's going to a dark place when she goes to sleep, and she still has those reoccurring dreams. Some dreams about the worst part of her life when she was homeless and doing heroin. Thankfully, now she's in recovery. She's 10 years clean. Congratulations, that's amazing. But she says that that place is still a part of her and always will be. What's crazy is she actually didn't tell me all the details of that story. Guys, don't ever leave out details because you think the story is going to be too long. People do that all the time. Sorry about that. Don't do that, because I need all the details, especially if I'm telling it on YouTube. The longer, the better. If you send me a story that's going to take me 2 hours to tell, I would absolutely love that. I really, really like putting very long form content on YouTube, and I would love to know what happened during that time. She said she can also tell us stories about when she was using and how she got clean and what happened to her during that time, which I would be very interested in. I think this story was super powerful and absolutely insane. something very dark was in that house. And I don't know if it was the people that your ancestors killed trying to get some type of revenge. I hope that they wouldn't do that to an innocent child or innocent children, but you just never know. It did sound very demonic to me. The fact that you lost your sight is absolutely terrifying, especially being afraid of the dark. That's almost like the ultimate manifestation of your worst fear, because you were afraid of the dark. And so how better way to put you in a permanent state of fear than putting you in a permanent state of being in the dark, you know? So that's insane. I'm so sorry that that happened to you. But I do want to say that congratulations on your recovery. As you know, if you've been watching my channel, I am also clean from heroin and crack and like everything else. But I think it is amazing when someone who goes through so much can pull themselves out of that. It's actually funny that you mentioned nightmares, because I actually have nightmares every single night. I have for as long as I can remember, but I at this point am a little desensitized to it. It doesn't really affect my day unless I have a really bad one. Like sometimes I'll have a nightmare and it will like linger with me throughout the day, and I'll feel different. Like I'll have a nightmare and then the whole day will just feel sort of different to me. It's very hard to explain, but violent nightmares, terrifying nightmares. And I always have nightmares of the same woman trying to possess either me or my family. And that has been a reoccurring dream of mine for as long as I can remember. And it is that I also have this one nightmare where I am going to hell and I feel what it would feel like. I genuinely think that I feel what it would feel like if I knew I was going to hell. It's a feeling of impending doom that I can't quite articulate into words. It's the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life, and I feel it in the dreams. And I remember I'll like look up at the sky in my dream and I'll just know that my life as I know it and my existence as I know it is over, and that I am about to go to the darkest place that exists in any realm. And it is such a horrifying feeling. And I have had that dream so many times. And it always correlates with the same entity, and it's a woman. And I think it's the same woman that I heard when I heard that woman knocking on my bathroom window and telling me to look at her. I definitely think she was attached to me for many years, and I think that she still is to a certain extent, but I think I'm very protected at this point. My lifestyle is so much different than it used to be. It would be incredibly hard for an entity to attach itself to me, because I try to be an extremely positive person, and I do my absolute best to protect myself, not only with trying to be kind to others and kind to myself, but also just what I do throughout the day and trying to help people and trying to just make sure that I'm doing everything I can to better myself and be kind. Whoops, I almost dropped something, sorry. Be kind to others around me. I also will do a lot of meditating and a lot of intentional stuff to help me with protecting like my home and me and my family and my dog, stuff like that. So I think it would be really hard for an entity to attach itself to me, and I do feel very protected, and I know my spirit guides, and I know that they are very protective of me, and I know that I am okay. So, but at one point I was not. I know exactly what you were feeling, not to that extent. It was never that severe, but I definitely had some terrifying experiences that I still haven't shared to this day that are just insane, that you can't quite describe. And when you're going through it, when you're using, it's 10 times worse because of the state of mind that you're in. So I totally get how that feels, and I'm so sorry that you had to experience that, but I'm so glad that you got out of it. And it truly does take such a strong person to get out of something like that. So I hope that you are incredibly proud of yourself. But what do you guys think this was? Do you think that it was her ancestors? Do you think that it was a demon? Do you think it was both? By the way, drop all your thoughts, opinions, and suggestions in the comments. And I know I haven't responded to your comments on the last video. Like I said, I'm so sorry, you guys. If it takes me a while to respond to your comments, I'm going to respond to them as soon as I am done with this video. But that, just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. Again, I want to reiterate that because it's so important to me to respond to my comments that I hate that it's taking me so long to do it. So I'm going to try really hard to be better about that because you guys are really important to me, and I hope you know that. And by the way, I hit 10,000 followers, so I am going to be making like a celebration video for that. So I hope you guys can be a part of that with me because you guys are what got me here, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Thank you so much for 10K. I appreciate you. Subscribers, not followers. Sorry. I'm so used to TT. So with that being said, I'm not going to do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. Amanda White 723. You said that I was one of your favorites, and you said that I remind you of your best friend that you no longer have. I'm so sorry that you no longer have that person, but thank you so much for what you said. I really appreciate that. I love it when I remind people of someone that they love. That means a lot to me. And the fact that I'm one of your favorites also means a lot to me. I am so lucky to be anyone's favorite. So when I hear that, is one of my favorite things to hear because it just, I don't know, it just makes me giddy. I love it. I'll never get over that. So thank you for that. And I appreciate you watching my content and supporting me. I appreciate you understanding that I'm working a lot right now and being so supportive of that. That means so much to me. You guys are truly the best. You are truly the best. I hope you know how much I appreciate you, and I just love you. Rai Sunshine, or Riri Sunshine. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You said that you've been watching me before the shutdown and you found me on YouTube when that happened. So you've been watching me for a long time. That means so much to me. Thank you so much for always commenting and pushing my videos out. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for watching my videos in general. I appreciate that you even watch them and watch them all the way through. I really cannot tell you how much it means to me that you have watched me for a long period of time. So thank you. Thank you for being here for me, and thank you for supporting me, and thank you for being a part of my community and being kind. I really appreciate you participating by commenting so that I get to know you. That's, like you guys know, that's a big thing of mine. I want to get to know you guys. So comment, not just to push my videos out, but just because like I want to hear from each and every one of you. You guys can tell me how your day's going. If you've had a bad day, a good day, if something exciting happened, if, you know, just let me know. Let me know it all. I want to know it all. Okay, so thank you. I hope you know how much I appreciate you. I love you. And before I do my outro, guys, if you want merch, comment below. If I haven't showed it to you, I forgot if I showed it to you or not, also comment that below. I am going to put the link in the description after I get done with this video, but just in case I can't figure it out tonight, just drop it in the comments and I'll make sure you get the merch because I know a couple of you wanted it, so definitely do that. And with that being said, my name is Kaisa, and I tell true scary stories on here every single night that you guys submit to me, whether they're long versions or short versions. So if you're into that, hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified next time I tell a true scary story. And I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories, have a safe night, and what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much. See you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs.